Okay, hey, welcome back to Innovation Unleashed. I'm Ross Kramer. I'm the co-founder and CEO of Listrak, and we're honored to have Alan Levy with us. He's the CEO of Alchemy Worx. Alan, welcome to the podcast. Tell us a little bit about Alchemy Worx.
First of all, thank you so much, Ross, for having me here. It's really an honor. Alchemy Worx is an agency that focuses on helping our customers do a much, much better job of communicating with their existing customers. We focus on the channels of the digital channels, but we focus on email and SMS communication. It's retention marketing, and really we're a strategy-first company. So we help lead with strategy, analytics, but we fully support them with creative services and reporting. So to us, it's all about getting to know your data and executing on it.
And Alan, you know, we've both been at this for a while. We were catching up prior to the show. I think both of our email marketing experiences go back into the late 90s. I have a question. If digital marketing, if cross-channel digital marketing had a golden rule, what do you think that golden rule of cross-channel marketing would be?
Well, I think the golden rule of any direct response marketing is test. So if there's anything that I know, it's that you test. And when people come to me and say, you know, what's the best subject line, or we were having a conversation before about, you know, some other ideas, and I had an opinion, but halfway through that opinion, I stopped myself and said, well, you should test, right? And so I think the golden rule of marketing or any direct response marketing has to be test. And if it's cross-channel or anything else, it just expands what you test.
That's a good point. I like to say sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and the only way to know what you don't know is to test. So it's that's good. How speaking of testing, what's one of the most surprising tests you've seen this year? What's a test that you've run this year that's surprised you?
This year, well, let me give you some value. Hopefully I can stall enough giving you the value on a test that we ran a few years ago that surprised us. This was a client that was, you know, in the apparel business. They were actually in the swimwear business, and their go-to sale was 40 off, you know, similar to the Gap, J. Crew, and all those brands that were mid-range consumer products. And new management came in and said, we've got to rip the Band-Aid off. We can't do 40 off. Let's go to 25 off. And so we helped them through testing margin, right? So we tested 40 versus 35 versus 30 versus 25. And in the end of the day, you know you're going to get more sales with 40 off, but you assume that you're going to make more money you're going to get less sales, but make better profit with 25 off. What they found was that when they offered 25 off, they not only made less sales, but they made less profit margin, and less margin, not just margin dollars, but less margin. And the reason they did that was because more people moved into buying promotional items that were on discount or in clearance than their primary merchandise. They were training their customer to buy stuff that was way off price. And so that was a test that really surprised us. This year, I think one of the tests that we ran was a long, simple item, which was just subject line testing. And we found a significant difference between responses from our engaged buyers versus our engaged non-buyers. So certain subject lines resonated better with one group than another group. And if you test everything together and not just with subject lines, but with other things, what ends up happening is one group could skew your results, and then you may roll something out. And if your focus maybe is on converting your non-buyers to becoming buyers, or at least becoming engaged, you may be missing the mark with them.
One of the things that I've always really respected about the work that you and your team have done at Alchemy Worx is the way that you look at a customer database, the totality of a brand's customer database. Can you tell us a little bit more about your approach and and really where it came from and why some of the principles of CRM still hold true today. Tell us a little bit about your approach to overall CRM of a brand's database.
So I got my background, in wholesale retail. And so my understanding of a consumer was literally based on, how are they responding in a store? But once I was in wholesale, I had to understand that different stores in different regions would buy different products, right? So somebody in an ethnic neighborhood, for argument's sake, purple is a color of mourning in the Hispanic community. So if we had product that had purple within a color pack, I couldn't sell it to them, and by letting them know that made them feel confident that I understood their customer, and then they built trust. And my later learning in digital marketing was direct marketing principles, right? So the principles of direct marketing again aligned me to don't treat all customers the same. Now we have limited tools, and the tools are getting much better to speak to customers. But certainly when I started this company in 2007, we immediately started splitting buyers and non-buyers, right? Prospects on your list versus buyers. And many companies back then didn't do that. They didn't really split much back then. So first it was buyer, non-buyer. Our next layer is engagement, right? Are you an engaged buyer, or are you an engaged non-buyer versus an unengaged buyer and non-buyer? And then we start splicing over that. For the buyer segments, it's a high-value buyer, and then it's a repeat buyer. So I may have bought 3 or 4 times from a brand, but I haven't bought recently, so I'm no longer high value. And then it's a multi-buyer, but haven't hit a certain threshold. Then it's a one-time purchaser, and then layering in on top of that, engagement. So if I'm a one-time purchaser that just visited the website, I should be receiving cadence that's different than a one-time buyer who hasn't purchased or engaged with the brand in a year. And similar to non-buyers, recent signups, engagement levels, and then really tweaking those engagement levels and constantly learning from them. So if I'm going to mail to my unengaged, my non-buyers who haven't engaged in more than 60 days, let's take 60 to 180 days, right? So they have engaged in a segment between 60 and 180, and I've moved enough of those into my engaged segment, that segment may get contracted down to a 60 and 90. So constantly adjusting the segmentation, that there's no set rules, and it goes back to rule number 1, which is test.
There you go. Now, Alan, from my perspective, those are all challenges that are solved with labor, which is where I think you come in as an agency. Where's the agency? Where do you see your business going in the next 5 to 10 years with AI coming in? How is AI going to impact my business, your business, and ultimately the business of the brands and retailers that support us?
So immediately, literally a year ago, we started using ChatGPT. We built a front end to our Subject Line Pro tool. Unabashed plug, subjectlinepro.com. Sign up. It's $500 a month, but it's free right now. So, but we built a front end to that, which created subject line recommendations, and you can filter by, you can put in a handful of parameters, and ChatGPT will then give you a handful of subject line recommendations. So it just made it much easier for our copyright to come up with ideas. I could edit those, make sure they're within brand voice, etc. Separately, we just added a tool which helps us write creative briefs. Again, they can be edited, but why should somebody write a whole brief if they can just put in a handful of bullet points and the brief gets spit out? So those are the simplistic things. The next level for us is using chat to identify some of the campaign successes or failures over a past week. What are the best campaigns and why, right? Did it engage the most? Did it click the most? Did it have the best open rate? Did it have the most sales? Did the ALV high? So just give me the basic data, and let chat just kind of filter through it. And then my analysts can start to do it. So in the short term, that's what we're seeing AI help us with.
What about generative images? Do you see, is that a short term, medium term, long term? My particular view of generative images, while novel and interesting to maybe text to friends or coworkers or that type of thing, I haven't quite gotten there yet from a real business and commercial value the way I have with text. So I think this is a long way to say I haven't gotten Ideogram or Midjourney to be as commercially viable and valuable as I have ChatGPT. Have you found anything similar?
Cannot yet get it to work for us at all in that way. Continue testing it because we want to get there. Possible that editing will be something we can use AI for versus, change the dress color or something like that on a model versus give me a model with a pink dress.
Yeah. Now, and keep in mind, for those of you listening, Alan and I are mostly in human resources and a little bit in finance. So we're kind of hacks. We used to be really good at this. Now we're sort of hacks because we spend most of our time leading our respective companies and get to spend a little bit of time in the margins playing with some of these cool tools that we could only dream about years ago. But nonetheless, if you're watching this on LinkedIn, for example, and you found a way to use generative images to be productive in your emails, please comment below, and we'd love to carry on with the conversation. Give me an example first. We don't always get guys with your level of knowledge here on the podcast we're talking probably 2+ decades of experience. How could you take traditional direct response knowledge and apply that to the AI generation? How might you approach, volumes and volumes of traditional direct response, tried and true, with what's coming in the future with the AI wave?
I think, and this goes back to some of the conversation we were having before the podcast, the rules of direct response, right? Which are audience segmentation, right? You don't send it something to the Midwest in the middle of the snow season as you would to the Northeast, right? Because especially if you're selling outerwear. So there's audience segmentation, which I think is really important. AI is going to continue to get better and better, but it needs an editor, and I think that the more historic direct response experience you have, the more you'll be able to train the model to work for you. I don't want to say it will never get there. That's not a fair statement, but I do think that there's always going to be a level of creativity that a human being is going to need to train the model, and the combination of direct response experience is going to help that creativity to guide that creativity.
Yeah. That's great.
I'll use an example from when I started the business. We had a client whose go-to sale was 30 off. And so, 30 off was their go-to. And I was walking by a Bath and Body shop, and I saw buy one, get one 50 off. And I was like, wow, that's brilliant. And we tested BOGO 50 versus 30 off. Right. So BOGO 50, just so you could slowly break it down, it's literally 25 off, right? You get 50 off your second product. So it's 25 off the two. And it took me a few minutes to explain to the client, who told me I can't do half price. The best I could do is 30 off, right? It took me a few minutes to do the math with them. And it was amazing. AI is not going to come up with BOGO 50 if you put in, give me an offer that's better than 30 off, but more margin accretive. Yeah. And that's direct response.
Yeah. I think there's a bunch of these types of things that can be found in old school textbooks and that type of thing. Free gift with purchase would be another go-to. I know at Listrak, this goes back probably 15, maybe probably 18 years. We had a client selling Birkenstocks, and we tested in the pop-up. They were giving a $5 off offer, so $5 off, and oftentimes, sometimes you see $1 off work better than a percentage off because you don't have to do advanced math. You only have to do like arithmetic for $1 off. And what may be even better than that from a cognitive perspective is a free gift with purchase. And we tested free socks, which was kind of non sequitur because people generally don't wear socks and Birkenstocks together, but it was a free sock promo. He was getting socks cheaper than $5. People converted at twice the rate than they did at the $5 off. So I think this probably goes back to the golden rule is you got to test this stuff.
Yeah, and AI, ChatGPT is not going to say, don't give $5 off, give free socks.
Yeah, unless you've built some sort of a promotional, that could be maybe an entrepreneurial opportunity as an LLM based on interesting promotions or something like that. But maybe a feature of Subject Line Pro. Nonetheless, good conversation so far. Let's pivot a little bit to data. I think our conversation today, I think if you really distilled it down with the conversation that we've been having today is you've got strategy, you've got data, you've got content. Those are perhaps the three most powerful levers that you can pull on. Let's talk a little bit about data here at Listrak, and we talk a lot about what we're doing with the Listrak Next platform, where we're bringing email, mobile, SMS, and MMS together with push data, together with purchase data, e-com purchases, in-store purchases, perhaps catalog purchases, or any other channels, bringing that all together. What can brands look forward to as more folks like Listrak create a unified view of their client base, and then give the marketer the ability to action across channels? What types of things can happen when you've got all of your customer data together with a platform that you can action across those channels?
Well, first of all, kudos for NextGen, because from what you've shared with me and what, even our clients that have already been moved to it are seeing, it's just amazing. The unified persona, the Listrak persona, is so valuable. It's critical. It's not just valuable, it's critical, and I'll tell you why. You can't do true one-to-one marketing if you are not really associating all the attributes of that person. So if I've signed up with two different email addresses to a list, maybe I wanted to get the coupon code, maybe I forgot which email address I signed up with, I didn't know, and all of a sudden, and I've been loyal under one email address, and now I'm getting an email under the second email address, and it says, make your first purchase. I'm going to feel that this brand is disingenuous. You don't understand me. You don't know what I'm all about. So, so that brand, if it knows that it can't do that, has to be very careful with how it markets to its consumers or its users. Knowing and having trust and trusting the data gives that brand the ability to engage with the customer at the level that they want to be engaged with. And, buy the camera case for the camera that they own versus, buying another camera when I just purchased one 3 months ago.
Yeah. How about if taking it beyond email? What about other channels? What can brands and marketers look forward to beyond email? Talk about SMS and what it could mean for true cross channel.
So SMS is really a very interesting double-edged sword, right? As you engage as a brand, you start using SMS, you start seeing this huge spike in revenue, and it's amazing. And then all of a sudden, a year or 2 years in, your database has grown significantly, and now you've got a little bit of sticker shock, right? Because it's carrier fees that really drive the cost of SMS up, and so you are not sure how to sift through your data and how to do it, and so you'll make broad decisions, right, on that, and say, oh, if they're not engaging in SMS, suppress them, mail them less. Overall, let's mail SMS less to our list. Let's engage more in only journeys on SMS. But with a unifying data platform, now I can identify who is a brand loyalist, who should be engaging more, and ultimately, what is the best channel to engage? There may be some consumers who just don't want to respond in email, and it's worth me, especially if they're a high-value buyer, it's worth having that conversation with them in SMS, and others who may have the same purchase frequency engagement that do want to engage in email, and I'm wasting my money sending them SMS.
Yeah.
So unified platform just gives me that.
Yeah. And for any Listrak clients that are listening in, we've got a new AI feature that's going to be rolling out over the next couple of weeks, which is predicted channel to respond in. So their most likely channel to respond in will be a segmentation field that we can segment off of. It can be a field within Journey Hub, so we can do splits within Journey Hub to be able to take people down the channel that they're most likely to convert in, which I think is probably a promise of AI that everybody's been hoping would arrive for a long time.
I think that's a great feature, by the way. And, we had a conversation before about, email journeys only being 30, maybe 35% of what, the overall revenue of a program, and email, batch campaigns, for lack of a better word, being 65 to 70% of a program. SMS is usually inverted, right? It's 50-50, sometimes even 70-30 journeys versus batch. But I think the opportunity to learn from that, especially with AI, can start to expand the value and the frequency of journeys, giving me as a marketer or as an agency more latitude to test in batch things that will ultimately roll out in journeys. And I think that's the real holy grail. I don't think batch will ever go away. I don't think it should ever go away, because it is the place that you can test and get quick learnings. But I think being able to migrate to journeys is invaluable.
Yeah. And, the neat thing about where we're going with next gen is we really don't care which channel we take the sale down in. We would probably prefer that it gets taken down in the most cost-effective and efficient channel possible. We were talking a little bit before we started to roll the camera regarding MMS messages. We talked about carrier fees. The carrier fees sometimes triple or quadruple for MMS. And we've been saying for a long time at Listrak, we've been questioning MMS. Now I've got really a disinterested third party. Like, you only care about driving value to your client. You drive no revenue at all via CPM rates or licensing fees or anything like that. I've been long saying we've been struggling to get higher performance, marketing performance. When you just look at conversion rate, click-through rate, revenue, we struggle on MMS, even on triggered. We were talking earlier, I've personally done tests of browse abandonment campaigns and cart abandonment campaigns where we featured a picture of the product. You would think that the untrained mind would be like, oh my goodness, if you're featuring a product of the product, picture of the product that you just abandoned, it's got to work better. What have you found?
We haven't yet gotten MMS to show its value. Although you just did give me an idea, maybe we should pull the product out of the cart abandoned in email and see how that works. And again, it could be just changing it up, right? So it sometimes, people will ask, does short subject line or long subject line work? And I will say short subject lines work until it's time for a long subject line, right? So there could be other ways, but we haven't gotten there either to figure out where is MMS appropriate, other than for branding as an overall whole and differentiating itself in the
yeah. And I think an idea that I will steal from you is there might be segments of that triggered cohort that we sent to that might be performing better. On average, I guess the answer is on average, doesn't seem to work better than a very direct response copywritten SMS. Seems
So you were setting me up to answer it the way I answered it before, and I didn't take the bait. But the answer is yes. The segmenting and this goes with any type of testing. Really, it's important to look at all of the pieces of the data. So on the MMS cart abandon, it may be that your buyers or your non-buyers respond better to the MMS, and one is bringing the other down on that response level. So your buyers may feel that it's more personal, or your non-buyers may feel that it's the right message. I don't know, or it may be the first touch of the journey, not the second and third, where the value is there. So really dissecting the data is critical to seeing where the lift is, especially where the cost is more expensive, is higher.
You've inspired me to run some tests, Alan, and to find there is probably a cohort of segment in there that does perform better with MMS. We just have to go and find it and lean in.
So
that cohort.
I will tell you, my mantra is that testing starts out revolutionary and becomes evolutionary. It's really something I learned from all of the tech brands, the Metas and the Alphabets of the world. They test thousands of things every day. There's the thousands of engineers working for them, right? And so when we speak to clients and we tell them to test something, and they want to know, well, how much more money am I going to make from this test? I explain to them that, look, if I can get you to test 10 things a month and only one test gives you a 2% lift, and, in 12 months, I get you a 24% lift, right? But I got, there was 120 items that we tested and only 24 of them succeeded. That's 96% failure out of, you're still way ahead of the game.
Yeah. And I think for email specifically, the channel has gotten so inexpensive. It has maybe created a little bit of an element like, we don't have to test so much. And I think you really bring back an important part of the importance of testing and experimentation.
Yeah, I mean, I could tell you subject line testing, 17 to 22% lift in click-through and revenue, right? We don't look at opens as the guide because I could fool anybody to open something, but I need them to click and purchase. Some testing, very hard to prove, right? Whether or not it should say click here or buy now and a CTA button, or it should be yellow or red or green. Very, very hard to prove out the testing. But other testing such as, discount versus dollars versus percentage off. Usually there will be a winner, but usually you'll find that eventually you have to change it up just to differentiate it. So there's a lot of different values for testing.
Yeah. Great stuff. We're heading into holiday season. The holiday season is weeks away. I'll give you the last word here, Alan. What's your prediction for holiday 2024? What are you seeing, and what are you recommending to your clients?
We are seeing that our clients right now are having challenges acquiring new customers. The traditional method, most of them have leaned into social media, and that's been a challenge for them. What I think a lot or a fair amount of that is political noise, political campaigns right now that are hogging the airwaves and taking away a lot of their, not just their attention, but their inbox and their phone. I'm predicting a very strong holiday season, regardless of which candidate comes through in the White House. I think that the consumer is positive. I think that the employment rates are high, incomes are at a good level, and that once it all clears, people are going to be spending and gifting, and I think we're in good shape.
That would be great news for all of us. So, hey, thanks for tuning in again to another episode of Innovation Unleashed. Thank you to Alan Levy from Alchemy Worx for joining with us, and come back and see us soon.